Start the recording. It's fun just to share this, kind of share our energy with people that maybe couldn't be here. A lot of people have a busy work day and they can't always drop by, but maybe they can get a little nugget out of what we discussed today, and it can help them in their life or their coaching or whatever. So welcome everybody. We've been running this type of thing for a while with our TCC coaches, and I was talking to Chris Sutton, our director of Pain Coach Academy, and we were just talking about, and it would be really fun just to provide more resources for our pain coaches and to just connect everybody, because like I said earlier, it's like each of you is a person from like a timeline in my life when I was like maybe instructing you or mentoring you or working with you. It's a nice case. I think just the more connected we are, the more we can just do our part in the world, make a difference. So this is partly that. It's just a place to connect us. Being a pain coach, or any type of coaching, any type of helping that we do, is a really difficult thing. So just the more support, the more we can just kind of verbalize what we're experiencing and how to make things better for ourselves. That's helpful. And I think a lot of good things come from dialogue. And I mentioned in the email, I've been reading. Somebody mentioned David Bohm, right, that he wrote a book on dialogue. And is anybody familiar with David Bohm? Does that ring a bell? So he's an astrophysicist, just a total genius that worked in many different areas. And he wrote a book about dialogue, and I've been reading it as kind of a resource for our group coaching. It's really deep and profound. And he talks about the importance of having dialogue rather than discussion. And so I mentioned some of that in the email I sent out, and the message I sent out to you guys. But I thought I would just start by um, just reading through a little bit of his definition of what a dialogue is. And I thought about just kind of paraphrasing it, but there's no way I could do it justice. So I'm gonna just read through this and kind of see how it sits with you guys as we talk about like what we want this group to be, and how we want it to move forward. So let me read a little bit from here. He says it's important to understand that a dialogue group is not a therapy group of some kind. We're not trying to cure anybody here, though it may happen as a byproduct, but that's not our purpose. Dr. Patrick Demar, a friend of mine who has gone into this, calls it sociotherapy, not individual therapy. The group is a microcosm of society. So if the group or anyone is quote unquote cured, it is the beginning of the larger cure. You can look at it that way if you like. That's limited, but it's still a way to look at it. Nor is this a so-called encounter group, which is aimed at a particular type of therapy where people's emotions and so forth can come up. We're not particularly aiming for that, but we are not saying that these emotions should never come up, because in certain cases, if people confront each emotionally, it will bring out those assumptions. In the dialogue, people should talk directly to one another, one to one across the circle. Um, then the time would come, if we got to know each other a bit and could trust each other, you could speak very directly to the whole group or to anybody in it. And he goes on to talk about hunter-gatherer groups and how they would sit in a circle. And rather than trying to solve the problem, they just sought to understand each other. And that was how they were able to then go out and do their part in this group. So I really think of us, as coaches, we're the microcosm and the macrocosm of the world of people in pain and the people that are suffering. Um, so I just want to kind of lead with that as sort of a vision for this, where, this is our group, right? We do group coaching for clients sometimes, and this is really our group, to where I want you guys just to feel free to share whatever's on your heart for the week, whatever you want to talk about, and just keep a dialogue going, create some flow between each other. And as a result, we're going to be able to go out in the world and create more impact for the people we work with. So anyway, sorry, I'm talking a lot here. I'm excited about this group, if you couldn't tell. And I just wanted to open it up. Like, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I don't have anything specific, but I do like that image of sitting around a campfire and
Mhm.
like dialoguing. I feel like that's really a nice image, and it's kind of takes like the business atmosphere out of it and really gets back to like human nature and how we connect to each other and yeah, being outside, sitting around a fire and the things, what can happen in that kind of space. So I like that as a starting image.
Like we should have like somebody should have like a background of a fireplace that's like that's
Yeah, totally.
yeah, that's a great image.
Well, I was doing some fascial work this morning. Do you guys know like fascia, the connective tissue in the body? And I don't know, I was really excited about I spent like an hour, probably over an hour doing that this morning and just like really connecting with that. And it's really valuable stuff to like take that time to do that kind of work. I think anytime you're connecting like the meditation aspect and movement together, and especially that slow movement that is needed with fascia, I think it's really powerful. And so I was kind of excited about that today. That's what I've been up to a little bit this morning.
When you brought that up, oh, go ahead, Suzanne.
So are you saying that you did a slow movement practice to do this fascial work with yourself or with another person?
No, I actually was doing it like with a online program. So I was on my own. But yeah, and my dog's always with me. She likes to share the mat. So, yeah.
And feel free
And
to
what
come off
was the
mute,
difference
guys.
between, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So what did you notice from that practice or what you did today? If you don't mind sharing.
I notice like so I do have a lot of muscle tension that I am consciously aware of, but I also notice like when I start working on stuff like that there are a lot of blockages kind of that I'm not aware of that I become aware of when I start doing that work. And then when I work to like move through those and release those, like it just feels really good. It's like you don't realize it's there. And then when you become aware and you address it, it feels good. Yeah. How
And
about
I
you?
wanted,
Has anybody else done any of that? I know there's like a lot of different ways to work with fascia. And has anybody else done that kind of work before?
and one thing I'll invite you guys to just come off mute, like we're in the same room together. If you have background noise, obviously mute it, but I think it just flows more freely if we're all just here together with not having to go for the button.
So I've done somatics, which sounds similar.
What kind of somatics practice do you do?
I'm a yoga therapist as well as a coach. So in one of my trainings with integrative yoga therapy, we had the one practice was like an hour and a half long of simple joint movements in a certain flow. But it doesn't need to be that long. So that's kind of one of the one of the practices that are working from the yoga paradigm with the subtle body.
Yeah, nice. I'm also certified in yoga as well, teacher a while ago. But yeah, I took a workshop once on Hana somatics, which I
Yeah,
thought was
it's
really
based on
powerful. Have
that.
you heard of that? Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
based on nanosomatics.
I liked that. Yeah.
Really interesting you bring this up today, Lindsay. I just over the past year, I've tried to make a real habit of meditating. Kind of your traditional, like sit in a chair, try to get the body out of the way, try to get the mind out of the way, and get into a meditative state. And I've always been kind of a fidgeter, like I need to move with things, and I like no, I notice it like if I work in front of my desk too much where I'm not moving a lot, I do what are called my jail breaks, where I'm like, all right, I gotta bust out of this jail and go run the dogs or something. So I just recently started experimenting with dynamic meditation, specifically Tai Chi. So just getting the body involved in it. And it's like, usually when you start something, it's like, it's going to take a while before you notice an effect. And with this, I just noticed like kind of this like instant energy that you're able to tap into with it, where when the body is involved in it rather than trying to like, and I think it's natural for us, like when we're trying to meditate or sit still, almost like repress the body, right? Which is the wrong way to do it instead of just kind of letting it be part of the whole experience. So to me, it's been a really powerful thing to experience.
Yeah, cool. I've done a little bit of Tai Chi, but uh kind of in class, like taking classes where they do like a series of um poses, I guess. Um, but yeah, it's powerful too. I like that. Do you do like did you take a class or a movie or how did you
Watched,
get?
watched a YouTube video and
Yeah,
tried
nice.
it out kind of thing. Like really simple and just kind of feeling like just trying to feel whatever my body wants to do, just kind of let it do that and get my mind out of the
Yeah,
way, let it flow.
that is interesting. Yeah, I feel like sometimes you go to these classes and you're so caught up in like following the instructions and I think tuning into like the intuitive what the body needs can be super useful. And I feel like, yeah, that's something that's really powerful that I think sometimes gets overlooked because I feel like we start labeling everything and it's got to be this or that, but like really just tuning into like what's feeling good in your body and what do you need. And yeah, that's cool.
I took a Tai Chi class in community college some years ago, and that was it was the best. It was so nice. I love like the movement and the meditation, and it actually it allowed me to become like more aware of energy moving in the body, which was really cool. And yeah, I hadn't experienced it that way before, but it was a different kind of practice. It was like a I think they call it like a temple practice. Like there's like 3 different kinds of Tai Chi or something. And yeah, I haven't been able to find another instructor of this kind of Tai Chi. So I'd like to take it up again. But.
Well, that what you say about the energy flowing is really interesting. It's almost like it helps kind of integrate the upper body and the lower body. So I feel like so much of the work we do, we're sitting down and we're just all up here all day. And the energy just gets like there's not good flow in our bodies. So for me, I can just feel like more integration, like more energetic flow, less maybe like digestive issues or kind of that like maybe a sour tummy you get when you don't move a lot. So it's interesting how that works.
Yeah, and I feel like for a long time well I mean I'm definitely not an expert on energy stuff, but like um I didn't really know like what that even meant or felt like when people said like energy moving in the body and what is that? And I think I was thinking it was like bigger than like it can be quite subtle, just like paying attention to like warmthness or tingling or like just like even just like openness or spaciousness or um like relaxing. I feel like energy can take so many forms that I didn't really when I first was introduced to like energy, I didn't really think about how it could feel it and I feel like it could be a lot of different things and it can be very subtle too.
We did one of the coaching programs I did. We shared some tools that we would work with each other on, or our clients, whoever. But it allowed us to kind of, even though we were on the phone, we would physically move with the client or the coaching colleague that we were working with, and you could have them, like if they're trying to make a decision or something, you know, they would pick a spot in the room, and that would be option A, and then another spot in the room would be option B, and you just ask them to kind of tune into just like, how are you feeling? Like, are you feeling some heaviness? Do you feel light? What do you, you know, what are you having some words come up? You know, and it's very interesting, the stuff that comes up. You know, when you don't know what to expect, you just kind of go there, and it was always really interesting.
Yeah, like that subconscious, like the body knows more than the mind or the thinking brain knows. And yeah, because there's all these like modalities that use like strength or different like physical things to try to figure out or try to like communicate with the body in a different way. Um, but yeah, that's interesting that like the body could give signals that you couldn't necessarily access, I guess, with like the thinking part of the brain. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love getting out of my head. It's so freeing, you know. So that whole thing is, yeah, very important to me.
Yeah.
Been way too much time up there.
I think we all do. I think that's the default. Yeah.
I haven't done, I don't know about Hannah somatics, and I've heard a lot about some of the somatic work that a lot of people are talking about, and I haven't experienced it yet. It's been recommended to me a couple times. But yeah, the closest thing I've come to fascia work was just like rolling my back or rolling my IT band or something like that. So pretty limited there. But
And that's an interesting, like thinking about what we treat a lot of times. So the idea of like referred pain is kind of interesting to me. I just noticed like recently, like I can, like if my gallbladder isn't doing well, for example, like there's kind of pain around the rib cage, and I can pick up on it. And I think sometimes we like hammer the muscle or the you know the tendon, trying to like change that when it's really like it's all interconnected, right? So maybe maybe my fear or some kind of not a helpful emotion is causing the body to react in a way that like leads the muscles to tense up as well. And so we think like, oh, it's it must be the muscles that are doing it, but it really just starts with the thoughts, right? So talking about like learning to let that energy flow a little bit more, it's amazing what it can open up for you. You realize that like it's not just the tissue. Like sometimes it's really helpful to, like right now I have an IT band that's being kind of pesky, and so like it is nice to like stretch your hips out a little bit and like do some of that stuff when it is physical. But it's also good to like I guess get more in tune with how do my thoughts affect the physical that I'm experiencing too.
Yeah. And a lot of the thoughts like turn into, they manifest, like you're saying, into physical, either openness or constriction in the body. And then I think like a lot of people talk about when they do fascial work that it'll bring up even like memories or thoughts or whatever um kind of created that blockage in the body. And so yeah, I feel like that's definitely evidence of mind body connection, going both ways. Then also like what you're talking about, it's just amazing to me how connected the whole body is, and like your IT band, or like, well, for me, like I feel like my jaw is connected to all different, like if I go barefoot walking, like on rocks or something, I can feel releases in my jaw. Like it's just crazy how connected everything is in the body. And that's like there are those like fascial lines, and there's a book called Anatomy Trains, I think. I haven't looked at that in a really long time, but like it goes through all the different like these like lines of connection, like fascia and everything that's connected. in these lines and how different parts of the line are connected and how an issue on one part of the line will manifest in, other parts of that line. So I think that stuff is really cool. And also it just, I guess it's more evidence of the need to like treat the whole person and have a holistic perspective, which I feel like gets lost a lot in our kind of siloed approaches sometimes. But
I really agree with that, Lindsay. My mom, she's 90 now, but she was a school teacher for a lot of years. And in one of the trainings that they gave her, they said, check your jaw. And, when you're a teacher and you're dealing with, 30 pesky kids and you don't even know you're angry or you're stressed. And then you check your jaw and you realize, oh, yeah, I'm angry. And when you have constant chronic pain, like, some of us do, I notice, there's days where, this is just what I automatically do now. But there's days where I notice that, like this morning, I woke up and I think I've been grinding my teeth all night and my jaw hurts from the beginning of the day. And I went to bed stressed last night about something. I don't remember what it was, but even that, just like being aware of your stress before you go to sleep and your thoughts and how much that affects the night and your restful or not restful sleep. I guess you guys can hear the ducks, huh? They're making a lot of noise back here. But I think it's really amazing how everything is all connected, our mind and our thoughts and our body, and how it all just works to either having a peaceful, nice day or, no rest because we're too stressed. Being aware of that, to me, is just half the battle.
Spend so much time trying to correct things too.
Yeah.
Like when you see that, like the example of the jaw, just by becoming aware of your jaw, it relaxes. It's
Yep.
really strange. And by, if it's like, oh, come on, jaw, let's relax here. Right? If you put too much of an emphasis on fixing it,
Yeah.
then it kind of reacts to that attention too. So
yeah, I think one of my favorite yoga practices is yoga nidra, where you are just like, you're just laying there, right? You're not doing really any movement. You're just laying in stillness, but you're going through part of it is you're scanning through your whole body and you're just becoming aware of, you're just bringing awareness to different parts of the body. And like it's super powerful and super relaxing just to like bring awareness to those areas. It helps you relax so much. And I mean, I don't really know like why why that is, but it is that power of awareness, and that you're just bringing awareness to these different body parts, and you're not pushing anything away. There's not really any thinking involved. It's just you're not trying to change anything. Um, but yeah, it's just that awareness piece. Yeah, yoga nidra is the best. If you guys, it's like so relaxing.
oh,
There's
interesting.
lots of guided. If you go to Insight Timer, that's where I get a lot of my guided meditations from. I've got some good ones, and you can go in and put like, if you have like 5 minutes, you can find a 5 minute one, or if you have a half hour, you can find a half hour one. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think I've done a guided one before. I think I've only done it maybe once or twice though, but I remember feeling really relaxed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research around yoga nidra. And if you've heard of iRest, and so IREST, or integrative restoration.
Wow.
Richard Miller was I am certified in that, and Richard Miller was my teacher, and he's on Insight Timer, so you might want to look him up.
Okay.
He has like an 8-minute break or a before sleep or a complete practice. It's a modern adaptation of Yoga Nidra.
Okay. What's his name again? I'll write it down.
Richard Miller.
Okay.
It's also really correlated to polyvagal nerve theory.
Hmm.
And
Tell
I've
us
been
about that.
studying-
Tell us more.
So polyvagal nerve theory is a theory by Stephen Porges. And Stephen Porges came up with this by looking at actually the vagus nerve, and that the vagus nerve has 3 branches. And then correlating these branches with how we respond to threat, which pain can be a threat, right?
Right.
And so there's this most primitive part of the vagal nerve theory that is related to the sympathetic nervous system. It's kind of that reaction that doesn't even go to the cognitive part of the brain. And so the first 2 branches are more the autonomic nervous system that's, before the cognitive part of the brain. So the information coming from the periphery, say we're talking about pain, would go to the dorsal horn, which is in the spinal column. And then based on the information there, how much signal, because nerves always conduct with a threshold. So it has to reach a certain threshold, and that can be based on not just what is happening in our senses, which are not pain, but are pressure, temperature, and chemical. So that chemical can include any of the stress hormones in the body, for example, or chronic inflammation. So there has to be a certain threshold there, then it goes up to the brain, and then the first areas that it hits are the thalamus, that checks in with the hippocampus and also with the amygdala. And if, depending on that, then it goes to the cortex, the thinking part of the brain. And the cortex would be more involved in the third branch of the vagus nerve that is related to more the cranial nerves, whereas the other ones are thoracic and lumbar, related to all the physiological different processes in the body. So with the polyvagal nerve theory, it's not only how the information comes up and how it's processed, but 80% of the fibers are from body to brain, according to Bessel van der Kolk. And but we also can use things that can calm those different branches of the vagus nerve. So it's not only bottom up understanding, but it's top down understanding. So things that we do with how we use our mind and how we think about things that we're taught in Take Courage coaching, and different processes like meditation and, this body scan where we're using our mind and attention to bring awareness through the body and notice what's going on and to be aware with that in a non-judgmental way. That all can help with the top-down regulation of pain. So I'll stop.
Wow.
I'll stop
Thank you.
there.
I knew a little bit about polyvagal theory, but I appreciate all the anatomy that you described. Thanks for that.
Actually, I just did a class with a Tai Chi guy, and he explained it really well. So
Oh,
I
nice.
got like another hit, and it's always
Yeah, I feel
to
like
have
it's
people
so
explain.
cool. Yeah, like polyvagal theory is kind of, conventional medicine. And I feel like it's really cool when you hear the filter of Tai Chi or like these different, um, whatever, like ancestral philosophies, or, when I hear things like that are in Western medicine that are also similar in Ayurveda, but then you like see the congruencies. It's just cool to like see it in these different lenses, I think. And I think it also just brings more truth to the theory in general. That's neat.
Well, the kosher model in yoga is just so parallel to the biopsychosocial model.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
ancient knowledge, really. This pain science is ancient understanding.
And what you were
Mhm.
saying about yoga nidra, I mean, we call that somatic tracking now, right? And there's all this research
Right.
about
It's
that.
very similar. I mean, I did PRT and it's
Yeah.
just similar, the somatic tracking to yoga nidra. I was like, oh, I learned this. Right.
But we
Yeah.
think it's new, like the West. We were like, oh, we're inventing these new things. We're doing new research. And it's like, no, this is very ancient knowledge. It's been around for thousands of years. And we just didn't know about it, or we didn't feel like we needed it until now. And it's
Right.
yeah.
Well, I
And
learned
I
that
think,
first, so it's kind of like
Mhm.
reinforcing, just like I'm like geeking out about the science, but it's really reinforcing what I learned first in the whole yoga world. It's cool.
I feel like
yeah.
a lot where there's like these traditional practices and variety of cultures around the globe, you know, like for eons, and you know the modern society kind of, you know, downplays it, doesn't understand it, you know, and then all of a sudden they come up with this scientific, you know, some sort of research on it. Hey, this actually works, guys, you know. So it's very interesting.
I think sometimes it's harder to study it because the scientific model
It doesn't work well.
requires that you have to isolate
Yeah,
one part of something. And
it
there's a
doesn't.
guy who's studying Alzheimer's disease with nutrition. I forget his name.
Bredesen.
Yeah.
Bredesen. Yeah. Yeah.
And and he finally got approval
Hmm.
to include in the NIH's study that looked at multiple factors at the same time to, look at people's genetic predisposition, and then he recommends combination of nutrition and lifestyle factors. And after applying for that many times, he finally got approval that he can make that scientific. But most of the time, it has to be like one compartmentalized piece.
Right. Yeah. I was doing some, I did an honors project on Reiki, and so it was a decision guide for cancer survivors, and we were doing like a bunch of different modalities. Reiki was just one of them, and that's something that I found in the literature was like, you know, the rapport that the therapist has with the client matters, you know, and that doesn't fit the scientific model very well, but it's reality. You know what I mean? So it kind of complicates things.
Well, there's that study there where they tried to find out what's the best therapeutic model, what works the best. And what they found out in the study was the presence of the therapist works the best.
Yeah.
I tell people this all the time, like when we're learning group coaching, we're doing group coaching practicum, that or any of this stuff, right? When people are first starting to learn MI, everybody worries about the procedure. Like, am I doing the process right? Is this all aligned? And I just tell people, like, just the fact that you're with this person and that you're this like positive energy in their life, like that's enough. That's enough. And the process will come. But that's the spirit of motivational interviewing. And it's really just the spirit of healing is being with that person. It's the presence. It's
I
plenty.
loved reading The Spirit of MI. That was just one of the delights of that book when I first read it. It was like, wow, yes, yes, mirror neurons, yay. Which is what I learned in iRest Yoga Nidra training about mirror neurons, bringing it, circling back here.
And you think about how rare a real people presence is right now. When somebody has a coach that's just sitting and really being present. I don't know if you guys have heard me say this, but I remember when I first got my coach training, I had this book called Co-optive Coaching or something like that. And in the back, it had like 30 pages of questions that you could ask, coaching questions that you could ask. and I'd be coaching and I'd be flipping through those pages trying to figure out what's my next question. What should I ask? I have to do this right. And, just like Paul just said, just being present with someone is it's just magic. And you see it with kids. I'm staying in my niece's driveway right now. She has a 2-year-old and I have a 2-year-old grandson that Paul is a father to. And, one of the very favorite things that they watch me, look at me, look at this, they want to be seen. And I don't think we lose that when we're adults.
Huh.
If we do, it's sad, but so many people don't have anybody to watch them, look at them, be with them. And I think that's just such the magic of coaching, the magic of MI, just being present, not flipping through, trying to find the right answer, but just being there.
I feel like being witnessed is a powerful feeling.
Yes.
Part of that.
And it's about witnessing their genius, right?
Yeah.
Like you're witnessing what's unfolding in their life as if they're already complete. And it's just crazy how it leads to such beautiful revelations for them. And I wish I would have known this early on. Like it took me a while of just kind of struggling with like trying to learn MI, making sure I wasn't screwing things up, and as soon as I took a positive approach of like, all I'm doing here is witnessing their genius and like helping them see it too. And then it's like everything else flows, right? Your reflections flow, your questions flow, everything's much easier when you just start with that part of it.
And giving people a vocabulary about their strengths, because most of us are kind of, for most of our life, probably focused on the weaknesses. So to have someone calling out your strengths when they're talking to you. And then I had one client recently who, that just turned everything around for her and how she was feeling about things. To like, I had her do the VIA character strengths assessment, and it really, she was like, oh, and it was all like people skills. And I just, reflected a simple sentence back, and that made all the difference for her to regain her confidence that she had lost with challenges going on. It can make such a difference.
Yeah. I always like what you focus on grows, and just changing your lens a little bit. Focus on the things that you want more of in your life, I think is just super powerful in helping people to kind of refocus that way. I feel like I do that with my kids a lot and myself a lot. Yeah.
I always hear the adage. I don't know if it's just like in the community that I'm in. Maybe I hear it other places too, but the mind magnifies things. Like that's kind of like how affirmations kind of work, right? Like, so when you put together an affirmation, you don't want to do like negatives in there. You just want to say like, I am whatever, like in the positive sense. And because the mind just adds and multiplies things and magnifies, kind of like what you're saying with, whatever you focus on, it gets bigger. And
Yeah, it's like if somebody tells you don't do something, it's like that's what you're thinking about doing.
monkeys
Yeah.
for the next 5 minutes.
It's such a good lesson for parenting too. Like somebody I was talking to recently just kind of planted this in my mind, and I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner, but it said something to the effect of like, with your kids, what do you think would happen if you only affirmed instead of trying to correct? And it just hit me so hard. I was like, wow, like what a great way to parent. If you could just like obviously create an environment where they're safe, and if they're trying to run out in the road, you correct that. But when it comes to just regular things, like just seeing the good in everything they do. So even when they're like, you know, um, like right now when my son throws a fit, we go meditate for a little bit. It's like, all right, you want to go meditate for a little bit? And he's like, yeah, I want to go meditate. And so he'll go sit in his chair for a little bit and go, okay, just tell me when you're done and we'll get back to what we're doing. And so rather than like trying to punish the behavior, it's like, why don't we give you an opportunity for something good here where you just find some calm and some peace.
Yeah, that's cool that you're starting that so young with your child. Um, I feel like that's, yeah, I wish I had that when I was a kid, because I think that, you know, having the habit of meditation and having that be your go-to tool, when you're stressed is so valuable. And I wish I did that more. I wish my kids are a little bit older now, 10 and 12. And my 12-year-old, he's not super open to a lot of the mind body stuff that I'm interested in. He's very like sciencey, and I try to give him the science lens behind things. But I think also because it's coming from a parent, he's just a little bit uh, resistant to it. But my younger one, I feel like I started with him a little bit earlier, and he's like really open to that stuff, and he asks lots of questions, and he's into it a lot more. So, but yeah, I think that's so valuable to start with kids when they're young, doing that, all that
Awesome.
mind body work. It's great.
Awesome. Well, I have to go, so it was really nice to connect with all of you, Lindsay and Shanna and
Yeah,
Paul.
nice to meet you,
So
Suzanne.
and hope to see you next. It's once a month, right? So next month.
Yeah, next first Friday of March.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, Suzanne. Thanks
You're
for teaching
welcome.
us about polyvagal theory. That was
Yeah,
Well, a little
thank you.
nutshell.
Trip through the body. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, take good care. Bye bye.
So is it okay if we show up a little late? I
Oh
saw
yeah.
that I have next month, I have like some appointment at 1 o'clock, and I'm like, I don't know if I'll be back by then, but
Yeah, it's all good. Like even if you can just show up for 1 minute like Maya did today, like that's super fun.
that was fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all good. Totally an open door whenever you can just open it and come on in. So man, was there anything else you guys are like anything else you're learning that you want to talk about?
I love the mind body thing because I don't remember what I was listening to, but there was just a perspective that I was hearing from someone that was just like separation between mind and body. Like that's actually like that's not a reality. Like that's not true. Like you know what I mean? And just to have like a completely integrated perception of that. So there's nothing to I don't know, there's a wholeness there, like I'm not pieces and parts, I'm actually like a whole person, you know. I really appreciated that. I wish I could remember where I hear things. Sorry.
Oh, I know how it is. Like we have so much information that's just constantly like in and out of my yeah, in one ear out the other for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
but yeah, like I've been kind of exploring the idea of non-duality a little bit, and it's kind of a neat way to look at things of like, seeing the whole picture rather than just, and I think we're like maybe our medical system is really good at like isolating certain things and like you have a specialist for this and a specialist for that, and everybody has to have their own little tiny little part of
yeah.
the big picture that they're working on. And instead, like, wow, what if we just open things up to like the understanding that there isn't separation, right? That we're not just kind of in this bubble living by ourselves, and that our body parts aren't just in isolation. Like everything's integrated and connected.
That's true.
Yeah, I feel like that gets pretty wild when you start, it just because like the way you're kind of ingrained when you're younger, the separateness of everything, and even just like our self to everything else. And like when you start thinking about that, because I've heard that in different contexts about like the oneness, of everything and the connection between all the living beings. And yeah, it gets pretty wild. And then like thinking, and then I feel like for me, I'm not to make this like a religious discussion or anything, but I feel like it puts a different kind of, I've come to like religion and spirituality a little bit differently, like um coming like back into it a little bit more from that perspective, because I'm seeing things like in in religion that I hadn't really like grabbed onto before, that are actually, it's like you say, like all these different world philosophies, religions, tradition, different cultures, they have like these common threads that you start seeing when you start studying some of these philosophies, and you're like, wow, that's really cool. Like everybody came to this from their own thing, and then you're like, oh, that's probably like truth. Like that is like the nature of things, because that's like everyone's coming to this perspective or this type of view from completely different isolated places. I think that's really cool.
Uh, yeah, I just it's funny, when I was in college, I was a history major for a while. I changed, and I did my my research was going to be in Aztec, like I like a lot of the Aztec myths. So I just like I had a book from that from like years ago that I just cracked into, and it's crazy how that their philosophy, the Aztec philosophy, is really not much different than Greek philosophy, a lot of the Hermetic teachings, and it just stood out to me. I was like, oh wow, that's the same teaching. And and it's like what we were talking about today, like, there's all these different modalities that have been used around the world for a long time that we haven't been aware of, right? Because we've, kind of signed it off as like, well, that's just like what they believe over there. And I think it leads to such division in the world when we see that different, that separation. But realizing that, like, even on the other side of the globe, like people are seeing the same things, the same patterns, the same, you know, same things about human nature that stand out too. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think we're coming into a time where we're starting to like all kind of see the big picture. It's kind of neat to see it happening.
Mhm. Yeah.
Odd. It seems like there's like I feel like it's almost a crescendo right now. Like, and whatever that is for me or you or whoever the individual is, that's it. Like going to be like I feel like that's determined by the decisions that we make, the choices that we make, like what we're attracted to and what we draw to us and magnify in our lives, right? Um, and I see a lot of, on one hand, I see so much separation and just very like so ramped up. Like it's just like some things are just like not even like I didn't even know how it's reality. Like it's so off kilter some things right now. And then at the same time, I have conversations with people like this, and it's like, oh, like this is very grounded. Like this is about like just being human first, kind of like how I was, talking about yesterday, and uh just like being human and sharing that human experience um and coming back to those roots, um it feels like there's two separate perspectives happening almost. I don't.
Yeah, I feel that too. And I think it's like yeah, um my dad and brother and I were talking about something recently, and it's I heard something in a podcast recently actually that kind of gave a new perspective to things. Like it's almost like progressive overload. If you know that term, it's like when when you're training muscles, you try to like slowly, add the weight or add reps, add a little volume to it. And it's almost like the world is accelerating in a way where it's like things are getting kind of scary in certain places. And like, can we handle it? Can we learn to like come together and help the people that are really suffering? Like, that's what I see all the time. It's like every client that I get, I'm like, wow, what if this person was able to wake up to who they really are? What impact would they make on the world?
Yeah.
Right? Who would they help to like see their true nature? And that to me is really exciting. I think that's what we're doing as pain coaches, is just helping that person like see their true nature, see who they really are, see what they can really do.
Yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that.
Really powerful. Yeah, I've had really similar thoughts around that actually. Just watching people, and I mean, I do it myself. Like I see myself doing it. Like it's hard to hear something positive about me, and that's something that I noticed recently. And the farther away I get from self-care, the more that is prevalent. It's interesting how that happens. Um, but uh, but I've just seen. I feel like I've witnessed and observed like the beauty and strength of people so much, and and then in like just the smallest interactions, I start to kind of realize like, oh wow, like they have no idea how precious they are, like that piece of humanity, to bring that back in and have that kind of a witness is so powerful. Makes me excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good reminder for like what we do, because it's tough. Like when you're working with people that are just like so miserable, and so demoralized and so like down in the dumps. Sometimes you wonder like, oh, am I making a difference? And if you realize that like if you just help them see one side of themselves that's good,
Mm,
that's a lot, right? That makes a huge impact, and it just carries over to the people in their life, the family around them, every person they interact with after that. If they're able to like lean into and develop their courage a little bit,
yeah.
that's contagious. It spreads. So
Yeah, and I feel like even if you like it's not apparent that there is a change in people that you are wanting or hoping to see or whatever, there's like you're planting seeds or they're planting seeds, and those seeds start to sprout later a lot of times. And I feel like I see this with my kids a lot. Like they'll not be receptive at all to something that we're talking about, and then like in a completely other context, I'll like see them bring it back in and like the value of it, and I'll be like, wow, like they were listening, like they got something out of that. And I always like try to think about that when I'm feeling like discouraged about like progress on how something's going in some sort of like interaction or relationship, and that sometimes there is value that comes or there's seeds that are planted, but like you just don't see that right away. Yeah.
it's yeah, I recently I had this song that came into my head that I hadn't listened to in like, I don't know, 15 years. It was like from my like when I was a teenager. And I was like, why is that song in my head? Maybe I should like turn it on and listen to it and see what it says. This is one of those weird things. And I listened to it and I just got like, honestly, I got emotional. It was like, wow, this was written like 20 years ago. And but it was for me now. Like the message in that song was like for me now in this time, like in 2024. And I shared it with my brother too, because he loved this band and the song back in the day. But it was just this like, I don't know, it was that seed, like that seed had been planted like so many years ago. And then it took root and was like, okay, that it's interesting that I heard that when I was at a young, impressionable age. And now during this time in my life, it kind of came to light. So this, yeah, seeds are everywhere, right? There's all kinds of seeds that are being planted in our lives.
Now I'm curious what the song
Wait for.
Oh man, we
is. I'm
listen to a
sure
lot
I've heard it many times.
of yeah, sure. It's called Frontline by Pillar.
Mm.
Yeah, we grew up listening to a lot of Christian rock when I was a kid. And, yeah. Man, this hour, this feels like we've been talking for like 10 minutes or something. Like the time just weird. Can't believe a whole hour's gone by. Man, this was a fun way to kick it off. This was like a really interesting discussion. Thank you guys for, just bringing all these topics to us today. I think it's like what you said, Shauna, about like, like I think I heard it somewhere, but I can't remember where. I think it's really helpful when we're getting all this information to be able to verbalize it to someone. I think that's how we learn it the best. So that's what I hope this can be, is just a place where we can verbalize what we're learning, either in our coaching or just in our health and wellness practice or whatever's relevant to what we do. Oh,
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for organizing this. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward
thank
to
you,
it.
Paul. Me
Thank you.
too.
fun, super fun. I'm sure the next one will be a little bigger. I think it's going to grow. So, yeah, thank you guys for being here, for taking the time, and have a great weekend. We'll see you at the next one of these, hopefully.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Lindsay, take care.